Again, I am going to throw out a major,
The Judge Rottenberg Center, that is correct.
major advisory warning here. I'm about to discuss very inhumane treatment of disabled individuals. Please click away now, or again, at any point, if this upsets you, please do not sit through this if this is going to be disturbing to you in any way, shape, or form. So, we are now about to talk about the Judge Rottenberg Center. This is an institution about a half-hour south of Boston. It's supposedly treating individuals with severe emotional and behavioral problems, as well as people with psychiatric disorders and people on the autism spectrum. In any way, shape, or form. This institution is promoted by Autism Speaks as a therapy center for children. Okay, I'm going to take a step to the side here, and I'm going to address a particular individual. If anybody here is aware of B.F. Skinner, you'll already know why this is going to be an absolutely messed up couple of minutes that I'm about to describe here. For those of you who don't know who B.F. Skinner was, he was the best way to describe him is...
He was a psychiatrist.
...is an absolute piece of garbage. But he was a psychologist, behaviorist, author, inventor, and philosopher.
Okay, maybe he was a psychologist. I thought he was a psychiatrist.
Basically, he was the guy he didn't like Noam Chomsky. But that's not the important point here. It's behaviorism. B.F. Skinner was a behaviorist. And one of the things he was very interested in was something called operant conditioning. Basically, you reward good behavior, but you severely punish bad behavior. And you can condition somebody or an animal to stop engaging in a behavior by punishing them. Usually, Skinner's choice was electric shocks. So they do good thing, they don't get shocked. They do bad thing, they get electrocuted. It's not a good look, and it's actually very detrimental to everybody involved if you actually engage with this. It doesn't help anything. There's a reason I'm bringing it up. The founder of the Judge Rottenberg Center is actually a protege of Skinner. Now, because we know that Skinner appreciated electrocuting people, or I should say animals, initially to try to get them to engage in a particular behavior, his student, Matthew Israel, started to employ that on people. I'm going to tell you that again. This person who is in charge of taking care of disabled people is using the same tactics that B.F. Skinner used on rats to try to train them into engaging in socially appropriate behavior, or what he deems to be socially appropriate behavior. This is horrific. And this operant conditioning technique is trying to train these people, not necessarily to, cure what have autism and their other psychiatric conditions. It's training them to act normal, which is in direct contradiction to everything that Autism Speaks.
What behavioral science is about is making autistic children look holistic, or look like they're not autistic. That's what it's about. That's the only thing it's about.
Says they want to do. They are trying to train these people through severe negative reinforcement to no longer act the way they need to act to feel safe and comfortable. That is so not okay. They are not treating a condition. They are trying to electrocute a condition out of a person. If you did that to a dog, that would be considered abuse. And yet these parents are signing their children over to be treated by this institution, which is a residential institution, by the way. These kids can't even leave. There was a video that was released in 2012 of Andre McCollins, and he was being repeatedly electrocuted while being held down. And the public got very upset for about 6 months and demanded the closure of this center. This center is still open in 2021 as of time of recording and is accepting new patients. They treat children and disabled adults who
still is in 2024.
Can't live by themselves. And instead of treating them with the respect and dignity they deserve, They are being electrocuted and trained to behave in a certain way, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
whether or not that is going to help them or hurt them.
And well, we do know that it does hurt autistic people. To masking does hurt autistic people.
That's completely unacceptable. These people are not experiments. These are human beings, and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity just like everybody else. Mental illness is not an excuse to harm people or to treat them like they are any less than human. Disabilities do not make you less valuable. And I understand that parents can get desperate, but this is not the solution. Sending your child to be tortured is not a solution. The troubled teen industry taught us enough about that. It is entirely unnecessary. If you'd like to learn more about the Judge Rottenberg Center, please do the research for it if you have the stomach. It's not a pleasant topic, and it is not something I would recommend anybody look into if they, want to retain any semblance of sanity, and it's very upsetting. Autism is not curable because it's not a disease. Simply put, it's a disability that affects about 1 in every 59 children. They are born with it, it is heavily genetic, and there is no cause externally. You're born with it. It's how you develop, and there's nothing wrong with that. All in all, what it is it affects how we process information and how we perceive the world. It's not an indication that anybody is broken. It's not an indication that we need to be cured. We're strong. Many of us lead normal, fulfilling lives. You can't cure us any more than you can cure green eyes or red hair. With therapy, we can learn to manage tics. We can learn to better interpret the world around us. Many people with autism are classed as gifted because we perceive the world in such a different way that we're actually able to contribute more to it. A lot of famous composers, scientists, philosophers, physicists, and
Galileo, um, Tesla, Alan Turing, um, Edison, more than likely, probably Newton, all those, Gates, Musk, if you wish.
artists were likely on the spectrum. People like Mozart, Beethoven,
Mm-hmm.
Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Plato and Socrates.
Mm-hmm.
There's even an argument that Stephen Hawking may have been on the spectrum. Da Vinci, Michelangelo, they were both most likely autistic. It's very important to remember that we are not low functioning by any means. Some of us have more intense struggles and have to endure more, and I will admit there are some very extreme ends of the spectrum where they are more profoundly disabled. They can't necessarily live on their own, they need support. And absolutely. But a lot of people on the spectrum live completely normal lives. Some you can't even tell that we do have autism spectrum.
Well, I don't know. I was diagnosed at 50, and I just well, I didn't guess. It dawned on me one day that I was autistic, and I knew I was autistic when it dawned on me, finally. But yeah, that was kind of a surprise because I wasn't, and I never had even thought about it. It just dawned on me, like it wasn't something that was bothering me. It just did.
Disorder.
Just boom.
And it's extremely detrimental that a charity, or an organization I should say, like Autism Speaks, is trying to portray us as completely non-functional, violent, screaming individuals that have no purpose. Because that's simply not who we are. We're not puzzles, enigmas, black holes to suck all your happiness and money. We are vibrant, happy, and loving. We are creative. We are problem solvers. We aren't broken any more than anybody else is. Just because we perceive the world differently does not mean we are inherently worse off. And it is so unbelievably cruel and ableist to believe that we cannot function, or that we need to be fixed or cured of something that we had no control over.
Okay, I think she did pretty darn good, considering. I mean, she was drawing the whole time, so I don't know if she had a script in front of her or not.
Autism meme review, yeah! Hello, indie people. Hope you're doing well. Now, we're going to be looking at some more autism memes. It was really clear that a load of you wanted this video, wanted the autism memes to come back, so I am going to be doing autism memes going forward, like on a monthly basis or something like that. So honestly, I just appreciate everyone's support, especially on last week's series. If you don't know, I posted a bunch of videos last week from the Monday to the Friday, and if you haven't seen those videos, I'm going to link the playlist down below. Definitely go and watch them, because there's a lot of useful material.
Memes this time. Rise of autism rates, research funding. That looks like, I want to see who they're talking to there. That's right, I think.
We empower those who act, those who manage risk by anticipating each movement. Identify the goal, match power with precision, reach new heights. CME Group, where risk meets opportunity.
Washington Journal continues.
And we are back with Bob Wright, who's the co-founder of Autism Speaks and also the former chair and CEO of NBC Universal. Thank you for being here. There is legislation dealing with research dollars for autism.
And that was to cure autism.
CARES is the bill. Where does it stand?
It stands very well. Yesterday, last night, it passed through the House unanimously, and this
bill really didn't do diddly shit, but it did go through.
Really, that's really something at this point in time. That bill was led by Representative Mike Doyle and Chris Smith.
Yeah, and Mike Doyle and Chris Smith were head of the Autism Caucus that does not exist, and I've already made a video about it. I made a video about that 2 years ago. So he's in bed with these two people who what the Autism Caucus is so that all it is on paper so that senators can put it on their bios that they're part of the Autism Caucus. And it looks great on their bios. That's all it is. That's all it does. It's not real at all. And Mike Doyle's no longer part of it. I called Chris's office, and I ought to do this again. It was really fun. I asked to talk to the Autism Caucus, and the guy was like, "Oh, okay, we'll leave a message." No, I was like, "No, just give me the number. I want to talk to the actual people there." "Oh, well, that goes through us." I was like, "Well, let me talk to the actual people at the caucus, because they can answer my questions more directly." Anyway, I kept on badgering. I badgered this guy. Finally, I was just like, "Dude, we both know it's bullshit," and hung up on the guy. Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't have hung up on the guy, but I did. I was guilty.
Republican and Democrats in verse order, and it was unanimously approved. So in a period where it seems almost impossible to get things done, the House came right out on it. It's
And see, what he wants to do is get bills that are written in such a way that grants and so forth are written in such a way that like only Autism Speaks would be eligible for it.
It's at the Senate committee this morning. I hope it'll be fast-tracked there. Senator Menendez is the guidepost on that, and I would think that will be fast-tracked in the next couple of days, maybe even today, in the same manner. So we need that. That's a 5-year program. That's $260 million of funding, which is a lot of money, but it still isn't nearly enough. That represents about less than $1 a year for people with autism based on the current prevalence, when we know the cost of autism is $65,000 a year. So,
yeah, and guess what? It got Autism Speaks got $39 million last year. They gave millions to their executives, and only about $400,000, a little over $400,000, was earmarked to go to actually autistic families.
You know, less than $1 for research against the cost of $65,000 is really an enormous delta. But
we can throw numbers around all day, buddy.
having said that, we really needed this bill to be done because it expired in September. So I'm very thankful. I'm thankful to the Congress. I know I'm going to be thankful to the Senate, too.
How much money has been spent on autism research over the years?
Research, and that's a lot. Watch this.
And what has been accomplished with that money?
Looking at it at the government level, which is really surrounds the NIH, the first combating autism bill was done in 2006, and since then, $1.7 billion has been allocated, including some special funds.
$1.7 billion.
That President Obama allocated in 2010.
Now, who knows what the heck he's talking about, what that is? That probably wasn't directly for autism research or anything, and it certainly wasn't because of him. But I mean, you know, they can always take credit and say they were part of it or whatever.
Most of that money is
whatever.
The direction, the way it's spent, is all through the NIH. They don't spend it necessarily in Bethesda, but they pay out grants all over the United States to basically academic institutions, academic medical centers. The NIH has control over a portion of that, which goes to other special research areas. And then the CDC has a small amount of that.
Oh, it's only 1.7 million. I thought he said billion.
Which is used for vaccine safety and some research. But the bulk of it is all...
That's federal funding. They give millions and millions and millions every year to all kinds of different organizations.
Under the control of the NIH.
Still,
and what have they accomplished with that money? I saw one figure.
Almost nothing. Almost nothing at all.
1.7 billion over the last decade.
Yeah, well, it's the. I'm sure they would say a lot, that they've accomplished a good deal.
This is the guy who started Autism Speaks.
Difficulty for me is that academic medicine, the approach we use, the peer reviews, with the NIH in the center and on the academic institutions around, Greta, doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a lot of breakthrough activities because it's all peer reviewed. These are the same people, so forth, the same universities, and so a lot of the difficulty is that the people they pick grants which are, you know, they only advance a little bit beyond where it is because they know they can probably get funded that way and they can get written up on that basis and they can get peer reviewed on that basis. So you don't find very many breakthrough ideas peer reviewed. So I would say it's a kind of a much slower process to deal with something like autism, which is very complex. And we
see how he's speaking instead of autistic people? There is zero regard for autistic people here as human beings. That's the problem. That is the problem right here.
We don't even have a definition of individual autisms. We're still working with a spectrum of autism. And think of, if you go back 60 or 70 years, cancer was a spectrum. And then they started to identify individual cancers and lung cancers and breast cancers and skin cancers of different types. And now we have, you know, several hundred. But that process brings in pharmaceuticals. But the pharmaceuticals don't want to deal with the spectrum. They want to deal with broken out, particularly defined cancers or autisms. And so we are embarked on a...
Cancers or autisms? He just compared it to cancer.
A uniquely important effort with Google. We're collaborating with Google to do whole genome sequencing on 10,000 different cases involving families with and without autism. And we have already sequenced over 1,000. We're in the second 1,000 now. And Google is, all this material is being put on Google's cloud platform. And all of the analytics are going to be done by Google engineers.
What is he got? Oh my God, is he going to go on like this? Oh my God, this guy's boring.
And then all of the results of that will be made available to the scientific community, probably be beginning sometime in 2015. And the scientific community can register and go in and look at the work that has been done and use that information for their own research, which I hope will greatly advance. Up in Boston, they're doing the same thing through Mass General's and its cancer research area. They're doing that same thing. So once this starts, it's not going to stop.
We're talking with Bob Wright, the co-founder of Autism Speaks, about the rate of autism in this country in research dollars for it. We have a fourth line set aside for those impacted by autism. We want to hear your stories, 202-585-3883. Let me go to our first phone call. Comes from Maggie in California, Democratic caller. Hi, Maggie.
Yes, my kid has that autism, and I was wondering if you could catch it over phone lines, because I want to talk to Aunt Betty in Kentucky, and I gotta use the phone line to call her, and I wonder if you might go through the phone and like sneak up on her and give her the autism cooties. What do you think?
Oh, I got to punch the line. My fault. Go ahead, Maggie.
Hello?
You're on the air.
Oh, okay. Great. I'd like to know why you believe that autism rates are going up so much. Is it that it's being diagnosed more, or is it actually appearing more? And why does it seem to be more prevalent in boys than in girls?
It's not more prevalent in boys than girls. It's because the way it was written, they only really paid attention to boys, and it is being recognized more, and as doctors are becoming more and more educated.
And can you dispel this thing about vaccination? Because I think it's really hard.
Oh, he's the last one that you want to talk to. He is the very last one to talk to about vaccinations. He's the one who perpetuated the idea for the very longest, until Autism Speaks finally had to go over his head, essentially, and just flatly say that vaccinations don't cause autism. But let's see what he says here.
Harmful. And I'll take my answer off the air. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Those are very good questions.
Maybe he won't answer.
Let's take the boys and girls piece. But that's not unusual. There are other. There are other diseases where there is a prevalence that's greater for boys or girls. It's a testosterone issue, and it's not unusual by itself. And we've gone around the world, and the numbers are always somewhat different.
I had no idea what he's talking about, this testosterone issue. He's pulling crap out of his.
Even though in some places it's closer to 2-to-1 rather than 4-to-1, which it is in the United States. The first part of the question is the prevalence. We have spent an awful lot of time and money.
Oh, by the way, this is going to be all about me, not autistic people. By the way,
we have raised $500 million in Autism Speaks since we started.
Autism Speaks, me.
And most of that money in terms of program money has gone to medical and scientific research. So I can tell you what we do know. We know that there's been a significant increase in awareness. That's what we do. We know that there's been a significant increase in diagnosis and the ability to get diagnosis. And we've looked at how that impacts the prevalence. We've concluded after a lot of examination that we can account for roughly 50% of the increase that has been reported. The other 50% we really can't account for. Now that would be described as being environmentally oriented. which is not unusual.
Nope.
Most cancers have environmental.
Nope. Those numbers are wrong. I think it's like 90%. They say now is genetic-ish related in the realm of genetics, as we understand it, or don't, and then 10% we don't have any idea. That's what they put under environmental factors, and that's what that means. It doesn't mean anything specifically about any particular environment or anything else. It just means we don't know. Ooh, excuse me. I am on almost 3.5 hours now on this run. So
Components, which are 60 or 70% of their
hello, whoever's on YouTube face. Go ahead, say hello in the chat. I'd love to give a shout out to you.
Appearance. In other words, they have no idea why you get the cancer. They have no idea how to cure it. So this particular case, though, where autism has become so prevalent, it is the most prevalent, serious developmental condition in the United States or in the world. And, we've got 2.5% now.
See how he's framing it as a disease?
50% we really can't account for. Now, that would be described as being environmentally oriented, which is not unusual. Most cancers have environmental components, which are 60 or 70% of their appearance.
Literally,
in other words, they have no idea why you get the cancer. They have no idea how to cure it. So this particular case, though, where autism has become so prevalent, it is the most prevalent, serious developmental condition in the United States or in the world. And, we've got 2.5% now.
He said condition, and he said that on purpose because he knows he can't say illness. So he wants to get it as close to illness as he can.
Of our children, and it's more like.
And he's going to keep framing it as an illness here.
3% of boys.
I've never seen this guy enter. Well, I have seen a little quick interview, but not with him talking on this kind of subject. But I know what these people do.
This is incredible. We can't answer that question, but we know that there's risk factors associated with all the genetics, and that we know that there's risk factors associated with where people live and how they live, and that's what we're hoping to break out in this study that I described with Google, because we have all the phenotyping for these 10,000 samples, and the phenotyping means we know the height and weight of the child, the individual, whether they were sick, what treatment they received, whether they had did they have problems during vaccines? Did they have problems later on? Did they have what diseases did they have? We know that's all going to get
what color their poo was
integrated into it, and that's where you start to get into environmental association. Vaccines, it's a very complicated issue. I think the answer to the question is, for the vast majority,
I don't ever know what happened with all this stuff. I don't know. This is pretty old. This is like 2015 or something like that.
Of people, vaccines are perfectly safe. The awkwardness here is that there is no really peer-reviewed methodology used by the CDC to really guarantee to parents that there's some small, minute percentage of people who receive vaccines. Remember, they're getting them 100 million at a time. That there's no guarantee that some small group of people in there aren't going to be injured, and it may not be autism. And so there's always that remote aspect. You can't do a sample of 5,000 or 6,000 and draw a conclusion. You need samples of thousands and thousands.
So he's trying to drop doubt. He knows legally, and he said it straight out. He knows, but now he's trying to draw doubt anyway.
But I would say safety is there. Vaccine has not been determined to be a cause of autism, but we know that any significant medical advance where there's treatment involved, there's always going to be some problems on the other side for some people, no matter how small it is. In our case, you're getting such big numbers When you start with 100 million, you can have several thousand people affected, and that's hardly a statistic.
The Daily Beast had a story recently critical of Autism Speaks, and the money that you have raised and how you've spent it. One of the critics was that the group's focus on vaccines, and this is what they write in the Daily Beast. Nothing was more controversial than the theory that the vaccines could be causing autism, although several studies showed no connection. Yet Autism Speaks kept funding research
And they're talking specifically about Mr. Wright here, too.
evaluating a possible link.
We have looked at a lot of environmental links. Vaccines are just...
That was not controversial at all. That was so cheesy of a question.
One of them. We have no unique focus on vaccines. That's an unfortunate characterization.
Wait a minute. I know that lady.
Environmental links. Vaccines are just one of them. We have no unique focus on vaccines.
Yeah, I know this lady. She's on... And I think I know her too. Yeah, these are some of these personalities or whatever that are on YouTube here, and they are so ableist.
That's an unfortunate characterization of something that we have. Well, we have to be open-minded. It's the same thing with parents. We try to represent anyone who has autism, and we try to accept their terms and conditions of being represented. There are a lot of people that are really high functioning that don't want to have us talk about autism. They feel that they can handle their own life and they don't need us interfering.
Why are you speaking instead of autistic people? Why can't we say it ourselves, Mr. Wright?
Interfering with it or whatever. Fine, you're welcome to. And we have a lot of people that are very concerned on the environmental side that we're not doing enough with pesticides. We're not doing enough with flame retardant materials and things of that nature, and I understand that. But they're welcome too. So we are not an exclusive club. If you have autism, or you and your family have autism, you're welcomed here. This is a church that doesn't exclude anybody, and your opinions can differ from others, and we try to have respect.
There is a big difference between opinions and science, buddy.
Every single person having autism in your family,
having that disease,
can be a devastating experience. And we are not about to try to order what people should be or should not be doing. All we can do is provide information and hopefully help them get services, both locally, nationally, and internationally.
I don't even have to talk crap about Autism Speaks. They do it for me. This is Mr. Bob Wright, the one of the founders.
Mrs. Harrington on Twitter wants to go to the pesticide question. Hasn't autism research shown a direct correlation of pesticide use and the increase of children affected? That was a recent headline.
Well, that I believe came out of the University of California, Davis, a study.
And they I think they give money to them. I think they give funds to them too in their Davis, California. Maybe not. It'll be right in here. Okay, I didn't see it in here. It would be right in here if it was.
That was just recently. I read it. Yes, it indicates a higher risk as associated with people who work in areas with high pesticides and having autism. I would also tell you that we have about 20 risks of that nature that we're aware of.
I don't know anything about this, and I whatever.
Parental age is also much higher risk. More than one child in a family with autism is a much higher risk. That could be up to 25 or 30%. I have a whole list of them. We do follow.
It's not a risk. If a family has autism and they have sex and they have kids, the kids might be autistic. It doesn't increase the more kids they have. Of course, the more kids they have, the more likely that some of those kids might be autistic, or maybe all of them, however the DNA works. But it's not like increasing the risk factor because people are having more kids. It's just that by and large, the more people you have, the more likely an autistic or a redhead is going to be born, or whatever.
Each one of these. But just being able to attack one of these issues individually is very difficult. But we certainly pay attention, and it goes right. And we encourage University of California, the Mind Institute. We've supported them in the past, and we supported many others on that. That's only a couple of weeks old, as I believe.
Yeah, and this was a headline from yesterday's Wall Street Journal that Birth Nation is seen as an autism risk as well.
This is, I think is that because of the immigrant issue? We found a higher rate of incidence in autism of people coming into the country from certain countries.
The Melinda Beck reports researchers have long thought autism was more common among white children in the U.S. other than other ethnic or racial groups. But a new study of birth records in a highly diverse Los Angeles County suggests that children whose mothers immigrated from certain countries may be particularly at risk.
Well, we don't have any data that I'm aware of that actually pinpoints one country versus another.
I just saw this one that, like, in Sweden, mothers that immigrate are more likely to have autistic kids in Sweden or something than natives or some. Like, okay, you can pick this stuff apart if you want to, really.
But I will tell you this, that around the world, most countries, we have a unique medical system in the United States. Nobody else has this insurance-based system. There's nobody quite close to it. So other countries have universal health care of some type. The government is the backstop or the single payer in most every one. And a lot of countries don't want to spend too much time investigating the prevalence of autism because when they find out the numbers.
Well, see, okay. This is all about Autism Speaks. See how, and this is the problem with Autism Speaks. It has nothing to do with autistic people. Well, this is what we're doing over here. This is what we're doing. What about the people? What about the human beings? And it's me.
They have to do something about it. It does become a budget issue, or it does becomes an economic issue. However, having said that,
he will never ever qualify an autistic person as having any idea what the hell he's talking about.
As far as we can determine, we have not been able
or being able to give any piece of advice when raising a kid or grandkid
to establish a difference of autism prevalence anywhere. Then the best program that we've undertaken was in South Korea, in Seoul, South Korea. It was a far more sophisticated approach than the one that the CDC uses in the United States. And the CDC, if they were here today, would agree with me. They would say it's too expensive to do. We actually are doing one with them.
They probably would, but they would autistic people agree with you on anything? Would you even ask actually autistic people about this? Would you bother? Probably not.
CDC, we're paying for it to add the extra cost that we did in Korea. That produced a result of 1 in 37. That is the gold standard. It is not to say that Korea is more vulnerable to autism than the United States. The way it was done was more sophisticated. We've had people from the Chinese Ministry of Health look at the Korean study, and they have acknowledged privately to us that they find nothing wrong with the math and the approach of of the Korean study. They also said off the record that they have no reason to believe the numbers would be any different in China. And they are doing a prevalence study. Ironically, and I'll just put this in, this is because in China, if you have a condition that becomes too significant, it is mandated by their law that it has to be nationally managed. And if China has the same rate of autism that the Korean study showed, that would involve 40 million people in China. Now that potentially is a governmental concern.
We'll go back to calls. Ronnie in North Carolina, an independent caller impacted by autism. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Hi, Mr. Wright, thank you. C-SPAN, thank you. I have worked for 30 years with children and adults with autism. Currently, I am still working with and have adopted a young man who's now 34. I got him when he was 14 with autism. Autism has become big money for many, many people. Within the government and administrative areas of government, I have found that if, for example, you track how the money rolls, are you familiar with waiver programs?
Yes.
A waiver program goes through maybe 7 or 8 different areas of government, from CMS, DMA, DHHS, DRS, SSI, EDS,
I assure you, this guy knows how to push money around.
Credentialing organizations have sprung up. Managed care organizations have sprung up. Provider organizations have sprung up.
Yes,
and
Ronnie, so I think we got your point, that this has turned into big money for people.
Well, but let's put it this way, there's 2 ways. There's huge money at cost. The average cost of dealing with somebody with autism is over $60,000 a year. Most of that money is paid for by parents. And if it's not paid for by parents, they're on a Medicaid benefit of some type, but even there you still have money. But there's no condition or disease that's anywhere similar to autism in the amount that parents have to pay out of their own pocket.
What are they paying for?
They're paying for speech, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, which is very expensive. You need 40 hours a week of this when the child is between 2 and 6 or 7. They're paying for doctor's visits because they're outside of the traditional pediatric visits. There's a lot of these kids have comorbid activities. Those aren't going to be covered necessarily by insurance. They're paying for the loss of a parent, for the standpoint, a loss of the income of one parent, having to not be able to work to deal with the child. It's an endless parade. Now, what you described in there should. It's just a maze. That is incredible maze.
I can't believe you didn't say ABA. I am shocked.
We just started something. It's brand new. It's called Autism Speaks Champions. You can go on there. It's got its own website, autismspeakschampions.org.
He's going to go on and talk about the champions here. And the problem is, okay, it's 5 people. One is a professor whose son was autistic. 4 are actually autistic. They're all ABA cult indoctrinated into ABA and so forth. They're all on the Autism Mom Autism Speaks side. But the thing is this. He's going to go on about them, how they're representing the community or whatever, and who the hell's doing the talking. Watch. He's going to brag about them being the voice of the community, but who the hell's talking? And Keith Wargo, the CEO of Autism Speaks, just did the same thing. I've seen him do it twice at least.
And this is a way of connecting any person which is interested, people with autism are the ones we're speaking to, the families. You can connect directly to your legislators. And what we have to do is we have to encourage people to, you do not have to take a plane to Washington. You do not have to even go to the local office. You can do this online, and it'll show you how, it'll make a phone call for you, and it'll put you on record. So you can explain some of the issues and inform and educate. And we want to get this down to the lowest person in the community. I was talking with some people last night, and they were talking.
He just said that, to the lowest person in the community. Do you realize what he was just saying? He said the lowest person in the community. He believes that he's higher than other people.
About their congressman, helping them with their medical problems. Well, the congressman's not going to help you with your medical problems. You're going to have to go to the local AMA. And the medical problems they're talking about doctors that don't want to deal with autism, or they have their peculiarities. And that has to be done locally. If you have a problem at the school district, you need to know the school district people. And you need to get involved with that board. And that's what we're trying to do we have 100 walks in the United States, 400,000 people will walk. And we want to turn every one of those walks into organizations that are really family service oriented by the volunteers themselves. And we'll try to mobilize them so that they can get their message out at the lowest possible level. And that's how it works up. That's really the most effective thing to do. If you look at the election.
He wants to, that's how you build a network for donations.
In Mississippi last night, as an example, Thad Corcoran. They were kind of way behind here, and they went right down into the street level. And they got people right at the street level. And, I don't know if that's what won, but that was an awful lot of talk in the press last night. And that's what we have to do. And that maze that you described, the so-called waiver, it's almost, I'm embarrassed to even try to explain to people that aren't familiar with it how complicated it is. I think you did a pretty good job of saying how difficult it is to navigate.
Yeah, Diane is also impacted by autism. And Flippin, Arkansas, Republican caller. Go ahead.
Hi, I had a little boy who had autism, and I think agree with the lady from North Carolina. What used to be called autism, what they're diagnosing now, didn't used to be diagnosed. I don't think there's more autism. I think that they are diagnosing them more as autism. I have felt that way for a long time. My little boy didn't give eye contact. He didn't speak. He eventually spoke 100 words, but forgot most of them by the time he passed away. And these kids I see that have autism, it can't compare to.
Doesn't look like my kid.
What of course, when my son had autism, I studied it, I researched it. There were a lot of doctors and all. And it would not have been diagnosed as autism before.
And so, Diane, maybe we need to talk about the spectrum of autism that you referenced earlier.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. I just give you a quick one. My mother was a school teacher for 35 years, and I was an only child. And after school, I would go to my mother's school. She didn't drive, by the way. So we got a ride home from another teacher. And she taught first grade most of that time. And one of her jobs as a first grade teacher was to work with the school psychologist to determine which kids graduate into second grade and to discuss those children that end up having to go to special ed program because they can't manage or get to second grade. And I remember that distinctly, those kids for many, many years, even when I was in high school.
And he's got it framed wrong completely. It isn't the fact that a lot of us can't manage, it's that the environment is wrong so that we can't succeed. You put us in an environment where we can succeed, and we will. But it's not that we can't. It's how we do it.
And I saw children, mental retardation was very prevalent. Down syndrome was very prevalent. All kinds of serious speech problems and odd behavioral problems and so forth. But knowing what I know about autism over the last 10 years, they did not manifest the same presentations that I see today on a child with a diagnosis of autism. That doesn't mean that some of those kids wouldn't have been on the spectrum. It is a spectrum, and the spectrum goes from very, very high functioning. In many cases, sometimes they don't even get diagnosed until they're 12 or 13, and to children that are very low functioning and that have no ability to communicate whatsoever, and may not be, able to be even easily handled.
Usually, we don't like using the functioning labels, and he should know that.
No way they're going to be left alone. And my grandson falls into that latter category. He's probably he has the ability to speak some, but doesn't, and he has the ability to do a lot of things, but he chooses what he wants to choose is up to him. But he can't be left alone, and he has to have an awful lot of help to make any kind of level of improvement. So it's almost not worth the argument as to whether it was there or not, because it's here. And what's happened is there is much better diagnostics. It is not easy to get a diagnosis of autism. A lot of people would go in and they will get a diagnosis of ADD or ADHD.
Okay, see what I'm talking about? He is just rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling. And it's never about autistic people. It's always about him, it's always qualifying Autism Speaks, qualifying himself as an expert. And that doesn't help autistic people at all. Yeah. Anyway,
HD. And there's almost 25% of children in the United States that have some kind of mental delay today. And that comes out of University of California, the Mind Institute. 25%, some kind of it. Many of those delays can be dealt with therapies. Many of them. In the case of autism, I said if you get early diagnosis, you get a lot of treatment, 30 to 40 hours a week, you got a 50% chance of matriculating through a public school at or near age level.
His qualifying is be okay, being cured, or okay is functioning out of school. Maybe that's not the best thing for us. Maybe we would do much better somewhere else. Maybe we do better at home. Just the fact if we can tolerate a school does not tell you how much we've learned.
That's a lot of improvement. But so I wouldn't
or what we're capable of.
Worry too much about whether, how many there were and how many there are. It's how many there are is really what we're dealing with the current. And I think that's kind of what my mindset has to be, because these are the families. Every year I have a new freshman class. Every year, thousands of people join this issue. So that's really what we're struggling with, and and we're all trying to help them.
We'll go to Greg in San Francisco, Democratic caller.
Bob, good morning. How you doing there, buddy?
Morning.
Good.
Hey, Bob, I was, watching Diane Sawyer. She did some stories on autism, and there's one online, actually a couple online, but the one that sticks out is KTLA Sam's story, and it's about this little boy with autism who was taking all these autism drugs and was gaining weight, became so aggressive and bullyish that they had to remove him from school, and they were on the verge of institutionalizing him because his behavior became so aggressive, the weight gain from the drugs he was taking for autism, and he just couldn't go to school anymore. And they started treating their child with cannabis. And since using cannabis, they've been able to, and this is a family that had never used cannabis before in their lives, the child was able to re-enter school, lost the weight, was able to get along with others. His parents ripped out tomato plants out of their backyard and put a few cannabis plants back in there to help him. And since then, this child is back in school. He's lost the weight. He's got friends. He's playing. He's and they treat their child with one dose. It's they roll it up in a little ball, and he takes it like in a pill, but it's like more like a hashish form, but very minimal.
So, Greg, do you have a question then for Mr. Wright?
Yeah, why? I'm just wondering why they don't advocate more research into cannabis use, because it really disturbed me when I found out after California passed their medical marijuana laws that the pharmaceutical industries testified in 1998 that if marijuana was made legal for medical purposes, that they stood to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. And you brought up the cost that's involved in these drugs. And
all right, Greg, we'll have Mr. Wright respond.
Well, Greg, we haven't done anything that I'm aware of specifically on autism, but I would say that there has been so much agreement that on the medical side that cannabis can have a positive effect, especially in pain relief for lots of people, not just with autism. So that's pretty well known, and every one of these state legislatures, when they get into this discussion, they get all that information. And
I'm very surprised.
So it's kind of moving, it's moving quickly some places and slowly others, but I think there's an inevitable conclusion that there is a real medical benefit for a lot of people that we will be seeing in the future, and hopefully autism will be.
This is Bob Wright, the founder of Autism Speaks.
One of those beneficiaries.
Another tweet from a viewer: is autism curable, and what is the state of treatment?
Autism is not curable from a medical standpoint. The symptoms could decline substantially, and that's probably not a cure, but it could be.
That's forced masking through ABA.
Be a significant improvement. Now,
no, it's not. See how he still has it framed wrong? By forcing people to mask, by keeping us from stimming, it hurts us. Just because it looks better to you doesn't help me.
Now, cancer is not curable either. Diabetes is not curable either. Cystic fibrosis is not cured either. Most of the serious diseases aren't curable, and we don't know what causes them. We probably, considering how little work was done in autism over many years compared to these other diseases, we actually know.
Other diseases. When was this made? Okay, this is 2014, but yeah, other diseases. See, he flatly said it. He flatly said it. This is Bob Wright, founder of... This is Bob Wright, one of the founders of Autism Speaks. And when they say that they don't believe that autism is a disease, this is from 2014.
I think there's an inevitable conclusion that there is a real medical benefit for a lot of people that we will be seeing in the future, and hopefully autism will be one of those beneficiaries.
Another tweet from a viewer: is autism curable, and what is the state of treatment?
Autism is not.
This is Bob Wright, one of the founders of Autism Speaks. This is 2014 and what he had to say to answer this question.
For a lot of people that we will be seeing in the future, and hopefully autism will be one of those beneficiaries.
Okay, this is Bob Wright, one of the founders of Autism Speaks, and listen to how he answers this question.
Another tweet from a viewer: is autism curable, and what is the state of treatment?
Autism is not curable from a medical standpoint. The symptoms could decline substantially, and that's probably not a cure, but it could be a significant improvement. Now, cancer is not curable either. Diabetes is not curable either. Cystic fibrosis is not cured either. Most of the serious diseases aren't curable, and we don't know what causes them. We probably, considering how little work was done in autism over many years compared to these other diseases, we actually know decline substantially, and that there is a real
When Autism Speaks says that they don't believe that autism is a disease, that's fine and dandy. That's today, and that's the organization. This is the founder, one of the founders, Bob Wright. This is what he has to say about autism.
medical benefit for a lot of people that we will be seeing in the future, and hopefully autism will be one of those beneficiaries.
Another tweet from a viewer: is autism curable, and what is the state of treatment?
Fuck.
Autism is not. Now, cancer is not curable either. Diabetes is not curable either. Cystic fibrosis is not cured either. Most of the serious diseases aren't cured.
This is Bob Wright, one of the founders of Autism Speaks, and exactly... I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, well, I'm going to go back
Diabetes
to this
is not
later.
curable
But
either.
This is crazy what he's doing
Cystic
here.
fibrosis is not cured either. Most of the serious diseases aren't curable, and we don't know what causes them. We probably, considering how little work was done in autism over many years compared to these other diseases, we
Compared to these other diseases.
actually know a lot about it. We know it's very complex. And we know that it can be
He flatly characterized it as a disease there.
improved. Your life
And he's
can
the
be
founder.
improved, but it is...
So when they're saying on their website that they don't, that may be true, but once again, that's the origins. That's the starting point.
It's mostly service related. It's not surgeries. We also, I'll tell you, this is the awkward part. Doctors, pediatricians, have very limited tools for autism. So they refer everybody to therapists and so forth. A lot of pediatricians, though, that have been seeing autistic children for many years have developed
I hope.
protocols of their own. And I don't want to embarrass any of them, but some of them actually are quite serious. In other words, a child comes into their practice, they could say, I've seen that presentation before. Presentation meaning the way the child acts, looks, or so forth. I've seen that before. I've given advice, and I've had some medication for people like that. You may want to try it. That is not necessarily the way AMA works, but the reality of it is that does go on, and in many cases that's where people depend upon getting some connection to the medical establishment, even though it's not part of the AMA protocol standard. So it's sort of like a gray market for treating autism, and I don't want to do anything to condemn it. I don't want to say we want to have everybody doing it, but it exists, and a lot of parents tell us that they rely on that help to get their child in a better state.
Ocean Shores, Washington. Steve's
I don't know what he was talking about there.
independent caller. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, and just
weird.
like to tell you, I have my blue light on, and my question is back to the pesticide use. I believe America is the #1 user of pesticides, especially in relation to Europe. I wonder if the autism rates are lower over there. Another thing besides pesticides is I wonder if this global
I'm thinking it's their manners. You ever seen them nanners? They should be straight, but they're all curved and everything. I think that's where you get that tism. I'm pretty sure that's what it.
Weather modification they're doing, where they're spraying barium, aluminum, and sulfates into our air. Could that be causing autism? Maybe we need to do a hair test for heavy metals on these children.
Why?
Not only has autism risen, asthma-like conditions have risen from this. Anyway, thank you for doing all you do. And yeah.
Probably because we're talking about autism? What's going on? That's crazy.
Test them for heavy metals.
I'll give you a partial answer to that question. Europe, you're right. We use more pesticides than anyone, and there's undoubtedly no benefit to people that live or near there. That doesn't have any positive benefit. So the question is, how serious are the negatives? And as I said, that study that just came out at the University of California indicates that that is a high risk factor. But I'll tell you the odd part about Europe is the hardest place to get.
I haven't heard about pesticide. All I've heard, the latest from the CDC, is we don't know. There are things such as pesticides, whatever, that could, but that's all they can say.
Data on autism. The most developed countries are often the ones that don't want to share any of their data. And so I can't guarantee, I can't tell you what it is in France. I can't tell you what it is in Germany. I can't tell you what it is in some of them that do give you data.
Yeah, I bet you really want that German research.
It's very incomplete. However, I can tell you in other countries that are much more open about this, and the developing countries like Bangladesh, where the WHO, the World Health Organization, that we got involved with, is there. They're very open. They have a problem. They want a solution. They're going to do it on a community basis. They don't have the money to do all the things that we can do. So what they want to do is they want to have their...
This is Bob Wright still going on and on and on and on and on and on. And this is so sad because he is not taking the responsibility of directing this towards autistic people. It's always what Autism Speaks is doing, what we're doing, how horrible this disease is. He's characterized it literally as a disease.
Their community clinics be aware of how to deal with autism and help families deal with it themselves, and sort of a trickle-down effect. And they're out there doing that with the World Health Organization.
Yet they never, ever mention that there's an autistic community, ever. They never qualify an autistic person as knowing anything about being autistic. Just saying.
As their provider. So it's difficult to say that pesticides are changing the numbers in any particular country, but we know now that is another risk factor for autism.
How much has Autism Speaks given to the research effort over the years? You and your wife co-founded this in 2006?
Yes, 2005. We have spent over $200 million directly of our raised money just on scientific.
Raise money, not. I didn't.
Research.
Scientific research. $200 million. That would go so. Instead of putting that to scientific research, something that actually autistic people don't want. Instead of putting all that money. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. All this 100,000 here, 100,000, 68, 131. It goes all the way down the list. Here's 29, 17, 28, 32, 358, 144, 50,000. There's over 250,000. There's over 300, 132, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on down the list. That's why autistic people don't trust you. The best thing you could do is completely abolish Autism Speaks altogether. But you're not going to do that. So the second best thing it would be to stop giving to any research whatsoever. As long as you do, you will never ever be trusted because of your past, because of your propensity to want to cause genocide among autistic people, because you wanted to eradicate them from the planet. Us. From the planet. So yeah, that's
but we've done a lot of things that surround that. We've spent probably $500 million since we started, but there are a lot of other programs involved in that spending.
I know.
It's very difficult. I spent all my life in business. It's very difficult to run a business where your goal is to end up with no money at the end of the year.
So tell me, Mark, what if all those millions, and I don't know how many millions it is, but it's right here on this on there's 990 here, but let's say this is $10 million. Would you not prefer for this money to go directly to services instead of that 600 or $400,000 that they actually gave earmarked for actually autistic families? Like, if there were actually autistic families, like, there could be some like 18-year-old kid that he's good to go. He actually can drive. Autistic, needs to work, needs a car, needs a bus tickets for a year or whatever, to go to work. And that's like real important economic stuff there. I would much rather see that kind of thing kind of happen.
It's just counterintuitive to my whole 40 years of careers in business, and it's harder to do that. It's very easy to budget your expenses. It's not so easy to budget your revenue. So all of whatever we end up with at the end of a year, which is right now it's about $70 million, that's all. It's all spent by the time the year's over, and a lot.
I would like to take this time to thank my most faithful viewer, Autism Speaks.
A lot of it goes into communities. We run walks, which are really educational and community meeting events, which I think are invaluable for our community. I'll say one thing about the walks that this is unscientific, but it's certainly my observation. We have 400,000 people that walk with us. A lot of these walks have 20, 25,000.
And the thing I've been telling Autism Speaks here is, as long as they give to science, they will never, ever, ever be trusted. If they want to be trusted, if they want to help the autistic community, then they need to stop giving to research. Ask the actually autistic community where those funds should be allocated, and do exactly as the autistic community says. Not the ABA community, not not their people, but the actually autistic community. Ask them where they want those funds to go. And I think that would be the best thing to do. Then they might start getting a little bit of credibility, but they will never get any credibility. The other reason that they will never get any credibility is this, Mark. I'm trying to... Watch this. This is great. Is this going to be the same page? Watch this, Mark. I just think this is beautiful. They're closing out their little thing here. The puzzle piece with its current spectrum of colors is meant to be representative of the spectrum of the perspectives and experiences autistic people may have. We believe, check this out, Mark, we believe that our updated, more colorful color piece represents inclusivity, optimism as we look towards the future and progress for those on the autism spectrum. Is that not condescending and as insulting as it could possibly be? In other words, we believe that our updated, we don't care what you think. We believe that our updated, more colorful piece represents inclusivity and optimism. We don't care what you think. That's literally what they are saying here. And the thing is they try to what do you call it? Mince it up with oh well, is it because it's a missing piece or we're a puzzle and we're no, it's a slap in the damn face. If McDonald's for some reason the golden arches were horrible, like overnight, like horrible, and McDonald's saw this all over the world, and there's just going to be no recovering. They would have kids out there with hammers breaking down those golden arches if they had to by the end of the week, or probably in a couple of days. And they would go on to something else, but they wouldn't paint them red and say, well, those aren't golden arches, they're red arches now. And we think that we have a good solution. Are you So they form wishes and not much more. Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they had the audacity to put it this way. Anyway, here's Mr. Boring Right.
1,000 people in the bigger cities. And when I go to these walks, these children are there with their parents, they're there with their neighbors. Everybody's connected in some way, relatives or whatever. You see very few meltdowns in a walk. It's amazing. You see very few meltdowns because these are children after all. And there's no judgment taking place. Nobody's making a judgment. Everybody understands what this is all about. So the children really don't get any special treatment if they make a fuss, like they might if they were in a grocery store. So all of a sudden, it's like one of the calmest places you'd ever want to be, with children that have from very severe to, very modest signs of autism. But that community around them, where there's no judgment going on, really calms them down.
Not about the autistic kids, it's about the community. And
part of your goal when you co-founded this with your wife, Suzanne Wright, was to raise awareness of autism. You're here in Washington last night for a documentary, Sounding the Alarm. Tell us about it.
Sounding the Alarm. By the way, none of the stuff that we do with Autism Speaks could be done without my wife, Suzanne. She works 50 hours a week on autism. She's responsible for all the awareness activities, all the blue lights. The gentleman said he has this blue light on.
She designed the puzzle piece.
She has close to 200 countries now that are with us on that. That's an awareness issue that goes to people around the country. Last night we showed a film that we and some others produced called Sounding the Alarm. It's 58 minutes. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. Talks about 12 families dealing with their children of different ages, all the way through to adulthood.
Really?
It's not the same family going to adulthood. It's different families. And I think people would find it really interesting, even if they don't have a relative with autism. But if they do, it's going to be, I think, very worthwhile. On July 15th, it will be on Netflix in several languages. It will be on Amazon Prime, and it will be on iTunes. So it's less than 3 weeks away. It'll be available around the world.
The House is about to come into session, but before
it's a documentary, by the way. You go into the documentary section, Sounding the Alarm.
Want to get your take. Put your former hat on as chair of NBC Universal, and the Supreme Court is about to decide on this American Broadcasting Companies versus Aereo. The big four networks all want to stop Aereo from being able to capture their free over-the-air signals and then make the signals available to people who want, this content on mobile devices. What do you think about this technology and the Supreme Court weighing in on this?
I'm going to try to find this Sounding the Alarm.
I think the view, my guess is the view of the court, and I'm a lawyer. I started out as a lawyer.
Yeah.
My view of it is that it is a backdoor around copyright. And that will be viewed by many of the court as that's exactly what it is. And that has a very negative connotation. When some technology is being used and it's a backdoor around existing law, that's always going to have a negative connotation. So I think there's a case. They have a case. They have an argument. I would doubt that it gets the support of the court.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there. Bob Wright, co-founder of Autism Speaks. AutismSpeaks.org is the website. Thank you for talking to our viewers. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Greta.
Oh, I can't find it anywhere, unfortunately. Not free, anyway. And so that's going to be a real bummer, because I was really wanting to see what that was. I'm sure it's like horrible. Take a quick look here.
What's the first thing you hear of when you hear of the term autism is a disability? You might think it's a cure that we all need to treat and just to cure ourselves from it. I can tell you this much, there is no cure to curing autism. Autism Speaks' approach has been centered around fighting this like medical cure that views autism as a tragic condition that needs to be eradicated or cured. It doesn't make any logical sense. It just fuels the spread of underground hatred for us living our own lives. And would you believe that a significant portion of their budget has historically been directed towards finding a cure instead of social services that help us out? Yeah, instead of helping us out with programs and education just to get more knowledgeable about ourselves and this entire spectrum, they continue to pull money for a non-existent cure, which I'm sorry to give tough love to those that still support it, ain't gonna materialize anytime soon because it's all one big fat lie.
Well, okay, not definitely venting their not real educational maybe. Oh my goodness gracious, wow. ASD research survivor? Woo, okay. And look who popped up there. Look who popped up there. I don't even know. Should I really do it? I don't even know what I did on that. All right, I'm going to go to the next one. Girls and autism. Nope. I'm trying to find some stuff here on Autism Speaks here. Okay. I have no idea. It's too bad. There's probably some people that really think they're doing good. These are just gamblers, so they're like, okay, sure.
This is Major Film Events, and we are here tonight at the...
Okay.
Joining us are Bob and Suzanne Wright of Autism.
Okay, so this is going to be all about, once again, all about Autism Speaks. All about Autism Speaks. All about Autism Speaks. What we're doing, not about autistic people. Watch. These are the two founders. This is Bob Wright and this is Suzanne Wright.
Speaks. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you today.
Nice to be here.
When did you first become involved in autism awareness?
When my grandson Christian was diagnosed with autism, at the time Bob was running NBC, and I thought we were pretty informed people. We knew nothing about autism. It was 1 in 166, and here we knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed. So we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find...
Epidemic. Epidemic. A widespread concurrence of an infectious disease in a community at a particular time. That was her words, not mine.
To find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find that it was hard to find the resources that you and your family needed for your grandson?
Well, it was very difficult. It was so thin. You know, I've often said it was like AIDS. When AIDS came along, nobody knew about it. They knew it was, oh my gosh, it's going to be a terrible thing, but no data. There was very, very little data on this. And therapy was, we were told even in Columbia, you know, goodbye and good luck. You know, there are a lot of therapists out there. We don't actually know them personally, but I'm sure you can find them. And that was it. That was the kind of the routine.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come across.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because they had no power. They were so inundated with the autistic child. They had no insurance. Medical coverage wouldn't cover them. The schools gave them a hard time. It was absolutely amazing. They were busted. They were broke. They had no voice in this community. And now Autism Speaks has given them a very, very loud voice.
Well, speaking of a loud voice, let's talk about Light It Up
Light It
Blue.
Up Blue. We started this campaign last year with 200 buildings around the world. This year we're coming up on 1,000. I mean, we have Christ the Redeemer, that statue in Rio, overlooking all of Rio. That's going to go blue. The Sydney Opera House, as you saw, the Empire State Building, the entire country of Bangladesh. I mean, the CN Tower in Toronto. We decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls, and that we wanted to shine a bright spot.
That is okay. Wow, I'm glad I saved this. Because if we go to Eileen Lamb. Gosh, I've been spending way too much time doing this. Okay. She's going to talk about the misconceptions and watch
We
this.
wanted help, but we just didn't.
She's not going to say, because she's going to say, if I remember right, that it wasn't because of boys. So misconceptions. Mind your misconceptions. I think this is going to be
My name is Aileen. Common misconception about deserve to know the truth. Stick people with higher job coach.
Okay, this isn't. Okay, I need a different mind your misconceptions. Okay, this one.
My name is Aileen Lam, and I'm...
Okay, check it out. Here it is.
Another misconception about Autism Speaks is that we believe autistic people are missing a piece. I think this comes from the fact that we used the puzzle piece logo, and some people interpreted the puzzle piece logo to mean that autistic people are missing a piece. That's not at all what we mean. The puzzle piece logo was originally designed for autism, to raise autism awareness in the UK in 1963. On that image, there was the picture of a child crying, which gave the puzzle piece a negative connotation, and I think that's where the misconception about the puzzle piece started from. But in the US, it was only at the end of the 1990s that the puzzle piece was used for autism awareness. And a fact that a lot of people don't know about is that in the room, when the puzzle piece was chosen to represent autism, there was an autistic person there. A lot of people do not know that cool fact about the puzzle.
Yeah, when one of them, I want to drop the R word so bad. One of them artistic people were in the room when we made those decisions. He was sweeping the floor and taking out the trash.
And I don't think an autistic person would have chosen the logo to mean that autistic people are missing a piece. Misusing the ways
oh, come on.
we
He
do
talked
this
about the
is...
blue. I know we talked about the blue addresses. Okay.
Welcome to the first ever episode of Just Another Autism.
Oh. Maybe it's this one.
My name is Aileen Lam. Mind Your Misconceptions is a show to convince you to support us. So, autism only comes from the as not. I'm autistic, often associated with boys. But boys, I think this misconception comes from the fact that in 2005, we chose the color blue, and blue is often associated with boys. But that's not why we chose it, and we do not think autism only affects boys. We know.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Where is she? Okay, where's my lady? Where is my lady? Okay, we can do it this way. Because no. Ah! There we go.
Joining us are Bob and Suzanne Wright of
Watch
Autism
this.
Speaks. Thank you.
Behavioral issues, a concentration on science and research leads to political involvement, and
the entire country.
Here we go.
Well, speaking of a loud voice, let's talk about Light It Up
Light It
Blue.
Up Blue. We started this campaign last year with 200 buildings around the world. This year we're coming up on 1,000. What was causing this epidemic?
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find that it was hard to find the resources that you and your family needed for your grandson?
well, it was very difficult. It was so thin. I've often said it was like AIDS. When AIDS came along, nobody knew about it. They knew it was, oh my gosh, it's going to be a terrible thing. But
darn it.
Joining us
I'm
are
so
Bob and
bummed
Suzanne
out.
Wright of Autism Speaks. Thank you so
gonna
much
have to
for
wait till
joining
she
us
says it
today. It's
again.
great to see you today.
Nice to be here.
When did you first become involved in autism awareness?
When my grandson Christian was diagnosed with autism, at the time Bob was running NBC, and I thought we were pretty informed people. We knew nothing about
Now, she is going to characterize this specifically as a disease.
autism. It was 1 in 166, and here we knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed. So we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find that it was hard to find the resources that you and your family needed for your grandson?
well, it was very difficult. It was so thin. I've often said it was like AIDS. When AIDS came along, nobody knew about it. They knew it was, oh my gosh, it's going to be a terrible thing, but no data. There was very, very little data on this. And therapy was, we were told even in Colombia, goodbye and good luck. There are a lot of therapists out there. We don't actually know them personally, but I'm sure you can find them. And that was it. That was the kind of the routine.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come across.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because they had no power. They were so inundated with the autistic child. They had no insurance. Medical coverage wouldn't
And they're talking about the parents this entire time.
cover them. The schools gave them a hard time. It was absolutely amazing. They were busted. They were broke. They had no voice in this community. And now Autism Speaks has given them a very, very loud voice.
The parents, not the autistic people. The parents.
Well, speaking of a loud voice, let's talk about Light It Up
Light It
Blue.
Up Blue. We started this campaign last year with 200 buildings around the world. This year we're coming up on 1,000. I mean, we have Christ the Redeemer, that statue in Rio, overlooking all of Rio. That's going to go blue. The Sydney Opera House, as you saw, the Empire State Building, the entire country of Bangladesh. I mean, the CN Tower in Toronto. We decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls, and that we wanted to.
What? What was that? What was that?
That statue in Rio, overlooking all of Rio, that's going to go blue. The Sydney Opera House, as you saw, the Empire State Building, the entire country of Bangladesh. I mean, the CN Tower in Toronto. We decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls.
This is our color.
Autism only affects boys. We know it does not. I'm autistic. Do not think autism only affects boys. We know it does not. Who is often associated with boys. But that's not why we chose it, and we do not think autism only affects boys.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we get
Believe
this right here.
autism only affects boys. Autism Speaks does not believe autism only affects boys. I think this misconception comes from the fact that in 2005, we chose the color blue, and blue is often associated with boys. But that's not why we chose it, and we do not think autism only affects boys. We know.
Toronto. We decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls.
Oopsie doo. Oopsie doo. Okay. I love this. Okay, start recording. Okay, so let's find out about blue. Why they
In
use blue?
2005, we chose the color blue, and blue is often associated with boys. But that's not why we chose it, and we do not think autism only affects boys. We know it does not. I'm autistic, I'm a girl, and I'm speaking to you today.
And Miss Wright, the founder,
I mean,
said,
the CN Tower in Toronto, we decided to go blue because this is our color, because it's 4-to-1 boys to girls, and that we wanted to shine a bright spotlight around the globe about this global public health crisis.
It must feel
public health crisis. She called it an epidemic before. An epidemic. Yes, an epidemic. A widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community for a particular time. This is David Page. Screw them, flap harder. Oh, I got to get that little thing where she calls it an epidemic, because that was brilliant too. Oh my goodness.
Joining us are Bob and Suzanne Wright of Autism Speaks.
She calls it an epidemic right in here, I think.
It was the most discriminated group of people I've ever come across.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because they had no power. They were so inundated with the autistic child. They had no insurance. Thought we were pretty informed people. We knew nothing in Rio, overlooking all of Rio. That's going to... at the time, Bob was running NBC, and I thought we were pretty informed people. We knew nothing about autism. It was 1 in 166. And here we knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed. So we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially
epidemic. Right there. And
about autism. It was 1 in 166. And here we knew nothing about it when he was diagnosed. So we decided to make it our mission to find out what was causing this epidemic.
When he was initially diagnosed, did you find that it was hard to find the resources that you and your family needed?
Okay, I'm going to go up here, and we're going to keep on moving right along.
For those our viewers in the chat room who have loved ones or children who are just diagnosed with autism, it can be very overwhelming and scary. What do you recommend is the first step?
The first step, I would say, is go to autismspeaks.org. We have a wonderful kit.
Ask her out and treat her like a lady.
It's called The First 100 Days. I know when we got it, I didn't know where to go. There was nowhere to go. So I would say if I was somebody just diagnosed, go there. Go to autismspeaks.org.
And she's not going to say, go to Actually Autistic People and ask them. Go to the Actually Autistic community, because they know, because they've lived it, because they've experienced it intergenerationally. Like myself, whose grandmother was more than likely. My mother was definitely autistic. I'm autistic. My kids are autistic. I might have one grandkid. But she's not going to say that. Watch.
And see if you can get the kit. If you can't, you can always call our office, and we have a family services unit that is happy to help anyone.
Is there a fee for the kit?
You can download it.
No.
Download it.
You can download it from your computer. You can see it on the computer, or you can actually get a hard version of it.
Yes.
This is
Go to Autism Speaks. Give us the money.
This is actually a related question in our chat room. Cool Jets would like to know, what are the first signs of autism? Like, how can you tell what's going on with somebody?
Well, that's a good question, because we were having signs, and the doctors told us not to worry, because Christian was speaking and was meeting his milestones, and he started slipping away. And the doctor said because he was
slipping away is how she categorized it.
Was a boy, and we had another baby born, that, the boys do that. Well, in the day of the autism epidemic, that's not allowed. So I would say that any slippage of
language,
not meeting the milestones, eye contact, there's flapping of the hands, that's very indicative, walking on the toes. I mean, don't get panicked, but certainly be aware.
Exactly, and that's why I'm going to make those it's amazing. Autism Speaks, I don't have to make anything up. It's just like doing the churches, Mark. It's so funny, because remember when I did Compelled Unbeliever, and I did the same thing with Christian channels, and it was a great experience, because now I know exactly what I'm looking at.
Where and point it out to your people.
And I know that I can repackage this up and put it in a video. And they're giving me the information I need themselves. I don't need to do anything.
Pediatrician. It's better safe than sorry. I know when And I was getting a little bit hysterical. I was the hysterical grandmother. Well, you know what? I'd rather be that way and safe because time is your enemy. The earlier you get this, the better chance you have with this intervention of getting your child back to being a mainstream when he goes to school.
But eye contact is one of the telltale.
Definitely.
Because communication is an issue. And with autistic children or adults, it's not that their minds aren't functioning. It's just that they're taking in so much more data. Or it's coming through their minds so quickly that they can't lock in on it. So staring at somebody is not normally something that they're comfortable doing. They're just moving quickly.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
And what about support for parents? Because we did mention it's overwhelming for them, and I'm sure it's important to really have a support group so they can really talk to other people and find out what they're...
See, and this reporter's doing it for them. Directing right away from the autistic people.
Experiencing and how they're handling it.
Yeah, my daughter was in a support group, and there are support groups. Again, you can go to autismspeaks.org. It's very important to have a support group because it is overwhelming. Many of these children, and my grandson included, are up all night long, and they don't have much respite at all unless they're in school. So support groups are very important. And again, they can call autismspeaks.org, and we'll help them.
Well, we have lot.
Again, it always goes back to Autism Speaks. Never mention the autistic community, that we're smart enough that we might be able to help or know anything about autism.
Of material. We have on Facebook. We have Facebook pages and a lot of social.
They're going to speak instead of us.
Networking there. We have Twitter, and the website itself has a lot of deep information where you can go to and access. And
yeah, and the funny thing is like my son's best friend, he's ADHD out the freaking wazoo, and he was a serious toe walker. In fact, actually, I'm the reason that he was able to go in the military. Because I told my wife, I was like, dude, you better go. She's an occupational therapist. And I was like, you better look at him. And she looked at him and she's like, ooh. And so luckily we were at good enough terms with their mom that she could tell him, tell her mom that, hey, you need to get this kid looked at. Anyway, so he did. He got braces, and eventually now he's in the Navy, I think.
It's got phone numbers. It's got places where you can get.
But me and my kids and so forth, we never did have that issue. But it is a common trait.
Therapies and things.
And sometimes you can't even put your heels on the floor.
It's like an enormous encyclopedia.
But technically, he has not been diagnosed as being autistic, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if that kid's autistic, but I don't know that he is really. I know he's ADHD.
For services and things like that. So between all of that, there's plenty of connections you can make quickly.
Now, speaking of therapy, a few years ago, I actually conducted music therapy classes for autistic children, ages 1 through 3. Now, the mindset, at least in my community, was, unfortunately, the kids in that age group weren't given the therapy that they needed. And research was showing that if they get this intervention now, there's a much better chance that they can get into mainstream classrooms at a very early age. Are we still seeing this as an issue nationally?
You mean that they're not getting the early therapy?
Yes.
They have to fight for it everywhere, every school district. They'll give it to you, but you need to fight for it. You also need to know your rights, because every child has a right to the right education. So that is a big issue. Parents need to know they have a force behind them, and we are the force. I mean, we will help them in any way we can in any school district, because they have that right for that music therapy if that's what's helping the child. My grandson had it. We had to pay for it because it wasn't included in the EPA, but that's okay. As long as they can fight for something in their school, they might get it.
But we had Christian had some of his happiest days down at a school in NYU, a music therapy. And the school closed, though. We supported it, too, but it became so many of the kids were autistic, and they just couldn't afford to do it. There was no reimbursement, no insurance, and at $100 a session and so forth, they just weren't able to cover the bills, and it was a sad kind of a thing. But that had a real positive impact.
Yeah, yet they're getting millions of dollars in bonuses instead of those kids getting their music therapy. The CEOs are taking millions of dollars in bonuses home.
Without a doubt, I personally saw progress over just a couple of weeks.
Isn't that amazing?
And it was remarkable to know that this is all it took.
Well, if there's anyone out there in the music industry that wants to help us, we're all here for you.
But I think the answer to a question from somebody that may be asking, if there is music therapy available in your community, boy, you should really look into it, because there is no downside, and every child isn't going to react perfectly, but it may well be one of the more comforting features.
Bob and Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us on Backstage Live. It was a pleasure having you both.
Thank you.
All right, I am going to take a brief break.
At King Soopers, the proven quality of Kroger brand products will make you feel like you're winning. And at lower than low.
In the meantime, we can. I'm gonna let Link Ray roll here, and I shouldn't be too long. Hopefully, I will be right back. Enjoy Link Ray. This is the first and only instrumental song to ever be banned from the radio. Here it is, Link Ray. This song is called Rebel, and we are going to rumble when I get right back.
Okay, here he is. Let's welcome Link Ray. Okay, here he is. Let's welcome Link Ray.
this is the gem of the day. This is Suzanne right here, not only calling autism an epidemic, but saying yes, they did indeed choose blue because of boys. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to start. Let's just go down the list because I'm having. Whoa, what happened there?
Joining us are Bob and Suzanne Wright of Autism Speaks.
Oh, okay, because I brought that back up. What is this? An autism mom tells her story. Autism Speaks. Okay, that's a little weird looking there, but okay.
Well, it's me and Jeff and our almost 12.
I mean, some people do that. I guess, like, if we're in Europe or something, it might be cool. I don't know. I don't like that mouth thing. I'm not into that mouth thing. No way. Okay, so let's see. An autism mom. This is going to be great. Oh, come on. Don't do that. I hate it when this does this.
Severe autism and is predominantly nonverbal. And then our just turned 8-year-old who is mildly autistic and probably will be president one day. My son was 6 months old when I started noticing some differences in his development. He really wanted to spin things all the time. He wasn't making as much.
Now she's going to prove she's an autism mom here pretty soon.
Eye contact as I thought he should. But the biggest issue that I had was he was almost never happy.
Hey, Justin.
It's like, hello, what are you guys doing here?
What's going on?
Hey, bud. We kept mentioning things to our pediatrician. In our family on both sides, there's a history of men speaking late, so we were just kind of told, wait and see, wait and see, wait and see. And then when he was 16 months old, he had reflux, and Jeff had come with me for a doctor's appointment, and he said, I don't like that he's not walking, I don't like that he's not talking, everything was negative, negative, negative. And I said to him, well, why didn't you mention all this a month ago? And he said, well, I don't like to say these things in front of the fathers, they don't take it well. And he walked out the door and he came back about 4 minutes later and he had several articles. They all said autism on the front, shoved them in my hand, said good luck, and walked out the door.
Oh my word. Ow. That's pretty rough.
Zachary presented completely differently. He was hitting all of his markers, and then he had a...
Notice this is about the parents.
Bad stomach issue for about 2 months, and during that period he went from being on par with his peers except for the speech issue down to about a 6-month-old.
I was initially so overwhelmed by everything.
There does tend to be a change in our brain that's fairly dramatic at a certain point in time in our development. I don't know why. Now, I didn't do that as much, and my kids didn't do that as much, but it is fairly common.
Sometimes
they call it regression. I kind of hate that term, but that's what it's called.
Paralyzed, not knowing what to do next. But eventually we started taking every issue and just attacking every issue little bit by little bit by little bit, doing 5 more minutes of therapy when we could, extending his stay out in the community an extra 20 minutes if we could. In 6 years, Zachary's gone from literally...
Now everything's going to be, this is just the God complex. And I talk about this a lot. I talk about how, coming from my background, are you still here with me, Mark? Coming from my background as a creator in the atheist community, I used to deal with people from cults all the time. I was in 2 different types of cults, and I helped people to get out of cults for quite a while. And as a result, of that and studying particularly Stephen Hassan's cult bite model, which is really the guideline in which you use to determine what is a cult. And unfortunately, it does show that ABA therapy and Autism Speaks are both cults. It's a company cult. Like I was in a pyramid scheme cult. This is a charity cult.
Face splotched, absolute spark gone from his eyes, and last week his teacher told me that he felt that the seat change in his room was wrong, so he wrote her a letter including the word injustice and put it on her desk and demanded that she read it immediately. Justin's got about 40 words now that he can say on demand. He uses 2 spontaneously. One I'm thrilled is mama. The other one is popcorn, which is a boy after my own heart because we're about food here.
No dada.
So, no dada. Sorry. No dada. Although he will say it on demand, but he just pretty much requests popcorn and mama. Predominantly, I want them both to be safe and productive and happy. And if you had asked me that 8 years ago or 10 years ago, if I thought that that was possible for Justin, I think I would have said
I see
no.
this little Autism Speaks
And I'd
thing.
love
I'm
to share that with
surprised I
parents
don't have
whose
this big
children are getting
Autism Speaks
diagnosed,
thing.
that even if you have a severe child, it is absolutely possible for them to have a great future. And with Zachary, the sky's the limit. He will absolutely be able to live independently. But most importantly, he'll have friends. He has friends now. He wants friends. He's able to forge those relationships. The most important thing for me, for both my sons, is just that they're happy.
Go kiss your mother.
Now, one thing, when basically just about anybody turns off comments like this, that's always a red flag and always something that you should watch out for. Let's see. Oh, okay, this takes everything always goes back to Autism Speaks, but we don't want to go there right now. Oh, wow, this is
What's better
interesting.
for eliminating embarrassing toenail fungus? Lamisil or Sporanox? Turns out
Wow.
neither of them offer long-term results, and both could lead to serious health.
Dear Netflix, you have a new documentary that's gonna be posted on your website tomorrow called "Sounding the Alarm." This documentary is directed and promoted by Autism Speaks, and Autism Speaks is very infamous for many unethical methods of how they treat autistic people. They do things such as excluding them from their board of directors and silencing their voices from the autism conversation.
I want to see this Sounding the Alarm.
And they've had 2 infamous documentaries such as Autism Every Day, which one mother wanted to attempt a murder suicide because of her autistic daughter and didn't do it because she had a neurotypical daughter waiting for her at home. And I Am Autism, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which describes autism as robbing their children, destroying their marriages, and basically treating autism as like a demon that must be stopped once and for all. Sounding the Alarm is basically in the same category, as they use the same type of scare tactics like they did in like Autism Every Day and I Am Autism, not to mention pity party tactics also. And some of the scenes include that one mother believes that her adult autistic son's future is basically a well of a dark hole that has no end, believing that his future is very bleak and grim. And
unfortunately, this guy's really having a hard time speaking, so he's kind of hard to understand.
And another mother that says that she loves her son, but she wants to kill him too, because of how heartbreaking it is to have an autistic son. And not to mention that the opening There's also mention of battling the autism epidemic, and autism is not an epidemic. Autism is a
And by calling an epidemic, they're calling it a disease. Now, this is back in 2014. He's putting this out.
It's a natural part of our human existence. It helps shape our brain, even if it processes things differently. It helps develop our strengths and weaknesses. It helps makes us feel what is comfortable and uncomfortable for us. Netflix, please take off sounding the alarm, because autistic people are not plagued. They do not need to be fixed or cured. As many of the doctors say in that video, as it's saying that autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders are plaguing our children, and this is not true at all. This documentary is doing nothing but using fear and pity party language to make people afraid of autistic people and autism in general. Netflix, please do the right thing and respect autistic people for being autistic, and don't give in to Autism Speaks' fear-mongering language, fear-mongering rhetoric. I'll post some videos and some other links about why Autism Speaks is evil, and I'm doing this so you can respect autistic people for who they are and accept them, and accept autism is a whole part of our existence. Netflix, do the right thing and boycott Autism Speaks. Thank you. And
So that's all the way
yours,
back from
Alex
2014. He's talking about this. I want to see what this is.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Meet Noah. Let's meet Noah. So, okay, so it always goes back to Autism Speaks. We know that. We know that. Always goes back to Autism Speaks. So
Noah is a very loving boy, very affectionate towards myself and my husband. Very much a free spirit, loves to run around.
now we're gonna stop. What we're gonna do? I can see the style that what they do. A lot of time, what they'll do is they're gonna spend about not quite a minute, maybe, talking about him, and then the rest is gonna be about the parents, more than likely. But we'll see.
Scream as loud as he can.
This is supposed to be about Noah, so maybe we'll talk about him.
Willing to go with me anywhere that I want to go. He'll go shopping with me. He'll take car rides with me. So he's very easygoing in that aspect. Okay, here we go.
Because he's attached to you. It's because he's attached to you, Mama.
I would say he's very ambitious in a sense, where now he's starting to try new things and very curious.
Look at the light. On. Noah, we brought him to his pediatrician when he turned 2.
I saw a regression because he was doing like waving by and he was saying mama dada at about 1.5 years. And then by the time he was 2, he was no longer doing that.
And that's when we went to the pediatrician to get evaluated.
He was diagnosed as moderately on the autism spectrum. ABA has been the most helpful therapy for.
So here now, Autism Speaks they are actively promoting ABA here.
Us because it was the first type of structural education that he received.
A. 8. Yay!
Helps teach him the basics of what being a child is, purposeful play. It just jump started everything else. I think without the ABA, early intervention, he would have had more difficulties going to school.
It's applied behavior analysis. I use different strategies to get him to behave appropriately.
See, and that's according to their. See, a lot of people don't think that any autistic people ever act appropriately. So it is very subjective, and it's whatever they want that kid to do. In my case, when I was a kid, I was to not be seen or heard as a kid when the adults were talking.
You put your right hand in. You put your right hand there. Rest the baby's hair. You try. Good job.
No.
I started working with no.
I don't like that touching the hands. And then see how he's putting his hands over his ear because she yelled at him. She yelled at him and it's hurting him.
What? He wasn't making nearly as many sounds as he is now. It's a slow process, but I think he's doing great.
He understands what we're saying most of the time. The first change we noticed was his ability to point, his ability to, like you said, use sign, or, when he's prompt, he's able to vocalize what he wants.
And
What I want other people to know about Noah is that he is a regular boy.
I'm glad they're at least sticking on the subject of Noah.
He has his quirks. He is different. But when you get to know him and you get to see his interests and get into his world, he's a lot of fun and he's beautiful.
Okay. All right, not too bad except for that. Look at this nice white screen because at Autism Speaks, we do not know that, bright, white backgrounds hurt autistic people's eyes. We don't know that autistic people are sensitive to light at Autism Speaks, so we make everything white. Introducing the new Autism Speaks. Oh boy, this is bad.
So much has changed since Autism Speaks was founded 15 years ago.
Finding out that your child is diagnosed with something that you had no knowledge of was...
It obviously hasn't changed. It's still the parents talking.
Is extremely challenging.
We've made great progress, we've listened, and we've learned.
I found Autism Speaks.
Isn't that sad that they have to put out ads like this at all? I mean, that's crazy.
And that's where we found so many of the very first services for him.
Today, we're reintroducing ourselves as we enter a future filled with...
And they kept the puzzle piece. And what did they say about the puzzle piece? They said, this is just classic. The puzzle piece within its current spectrum of colors is meant to be representative of the spectrum of perspective and experiences autistic people may have. They don't know what kind we have, what kind we might have. We believe, this is Autism Speaks, this is the executive staff, we believe that our updated, more colorful color piece represents inclusivity and optimism. As we, Autism Speaks, looks towards a future of progress for those on the autism spectrum. So in other words, we don't care what autistic people think. We believe... Where is it? Where is it? Come on, I hate it when it does that. We believe that our updated, more colorful color piece represents inclusivity and optimism as we look towards, and then it goes even worse. It gets worse. We support the community no matter what color they decide is best represents their position on this. Oh, okay. Thank goodness this isn't that bad one. Woo. Yeah. We're going to have fun with this video too, Eileen. Boy, are we. All right, so let's take a look back and see what else we got. I'm trying to see anything related to that sounding the alarm. Let's see. But nothing there. See, he'll probably want to charge me like... Is it free? Is it free? Ha! It'll let me try it free, but... yeah, I'd have to put in all kinds of information. Maybe I might do that. Maybe I might do that tomorrow. Yeah, you know, autism does manifest quite differently in different people. I'm kind of curious what this is. Because, like, I like had my favorite shirt was my Superman shirt for a while.
Every time I get up for work in the morning, I think about my very first friend, Dan Jordan. We were both in nursery school, right around the time these photos were taken, that he was first diagnosed with autism.
All right, you gotta get going. What are you gonna have for breakfast? What are you gonna have? Waffles or cereal?
Waffles.
Go ahead, get your waffles. By 18 months, 2 years old, we said, you know, there's something not right. His language started to emerge. We kept waiting for more of it to come.
Something's not right. Now, granted, Autism Speaks is the one putting this out. Something's not right.
But that didn't happen with Daniel. In fact, what he did have, he lost.
I've known Dan my whole life, and I've never had a real conversation with him. I'll never get to truly understand what he thinks or feels.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
But being friends with him has changed my view of the world. It led me to a job here at Autism Speaks as a video editor. Autism Speaks was founded 10 years ago by Bob and Suzanne Wright after their grandson Christian was diagnosed with autism.
So this is old. Yeah. This is, so he says he's, okay. Let's go back. I want to see if he's...
Right around the time these photos were taken, that he was first diagnosed with autism.
All right, you gotta get going. What are you gonna have for breakfast? What are you gonna have? Waffles or cereal?
Waffles.
Go ahead, get your waffles. By 18 months, 2 years old, we said, you know, there's something not right.
Like making his
language
eyes
started
look
to
blue.
emerge. We kept waiting for more of it to come, but that didn't happen with Daniel. In fact, what he did have, he lost.
I've known Dan my whole life, and I've never had a real conversation with him. I'll never get to truly understand what he thinks or feels.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
But being friends with him has changed my view of the world. It led me to a job here at Autism Speaks as a video editor. Autism Speaks was founded 10 years ago by Bob and Suzanne Wright after their grandson Christian was diagnosed with autism.
He started speaking right on time. He was talking a lot about my mom. He always wanted to visit my mom.
I can remember the first time he came to see us and he could speak. He said, Mom.
Christian went from being a pretty typical 18-month-old, 2-year-old talking, very sweet and affectionate, to not recognizing my mom, not recognizing my whole family, screaming all day long, awake all night long.
Autism is the fastest growing developmental disorder in this country. In the next...
It's not growing. It might be the fastest finally getting diagnosed, but it is not growing.
10 years, 500,000 young adults will age out of school-based services. Who's going to take care of them? Where are the jobs? Where are the opportunities for independent living?
What's today?
What's today? Monday.
Today's Monday, yeah. Where do you work on Monday?
I work on Monday.
I think you're going to MetLife?
MetLife, yeah.
He's at the beginning of that wave. I mean, what's coming after him? Bye, Dan. Have a good day. What are they going to do for these people?
Hi, honey. How was work? A kiss. Did you go to the cafeteria?
Are you going to the cafeteria? Yes.
And what did you do at the cafeteria?
Spread the tables. You spread the tables.
He's just a great kid and a great young man, I should say. And I think of him as a little kid. He's 24, but he's still my baby. And he's deserving of a full life, just like everybody else.
Can you wave to me? Bye. Yes. Bye.
That's Miss Wright, Suzanne Wright.
Hope I get to hear
one of the
Kristen one
co-founders
day
of
speak,
Autism
right?
Speaks. Her and her husband, Bob.
Hi, Mama. That's what I'd love.
I
As
wonder
I've
what
worked
those
on this,
pearls are worth.
I'd love.
That she had there. I wonder what those pearls are worth.
What I'd love.
as I've worked on this project, I haven't been able to stop thinking about how and why I'm different from Dan and Christian. The truth is, we still don't know.
Essentially,
you see, I'm on the autism spectrum too. I didn't speak until I was 5. I had behavioral problems, and I don't think anyone ever expected me to lead anything close to a normal life.
That's really sad because it's like infantilizing on its own. I don't know. My son didn't speak until he was 5, and I didn't worry about it. It was not a big deal. I just was like, okay, you know, he'll do it when he can. And he did. And that was fine. You know? So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm getting Autism Speaks, rant. There we go, rant. Okay, let's see what.
Have you heard of this brand new product that instantly cleans toilets without any
Yosemite
scrubbing?
Sam
Take any dirty
has to
toilet,
say
pour
about
in one scoop.
Autism Speaks.
What's up, everyone? April the 2nd is World Autism Awareness Day 2019, and already people are getting excited. They are lighting it up blue, wearing their blue clothes with pride, and
I don't know. I think he was saying that basically his brother was like extremely high support needs, and so whatever. And I mean, yeah, he may be right.
changing their Facebook photos to a puzzle piece, all in the name of raising awareness about autism. Now, this is a rant. Fair warning. I'm going to keep this rant a little bit shorter than my other videos, mainly because I want people to actually watch it, and
Holy
the people
heck,
that I
she's
want to
got some
watch it
blue
are the
eyes.
people who are known for having slightly shorter attention span and maybe lack of attention to detail. I am, of course, talking about people without autism. The thing that really baffles me about these awareness campaigns is that people already know about autism. It's like the pinkified and highly commodified.
And I've said for years, I was like, autism awareness, so what? Because autism, I knew about awareness. That's why I'm so big on moving past just awareness now, because yes, acceptance is cool. That's a good direction. I like voice either way, but we've got to get past this awareness. People know it's there. They just don't know what it is or anything about it. So that's the point where we need to go now.
Breast cancer awareness campaign. Haven't we all heard of breast cancer by this point? And similarly, I think everybody's heard of autism. Do we really need more t-shirt and other pieces of junk for every cause that we're passionate about? Why must charity be so entwined with consumerism and buying more crap? And does this actually help the people that you claim you want to support? Well, in the case of the Lighted Up Blue campaign, not only does it not actually help autistic people that much, but it is actively harmful in many ways. Let me tell you a little something about the Light It Up Blue campaign in case you are unfamiliar with it. Blue was chosen because it represents boys, but I reject this as it completely ignores the struggles.
And Eileen Lamb said no, but Miss Wright, and I'm going to make a video about that. I already have got some stuff saved. And that'll go maybe on my TikTok, for sure on my YouTube.
Of many autistic women out there, not to mention the fact that autistic women are very underdiagnosed. There have been many alternatives suggested, some like the Go Red Instead campaign, I guess because they like to rhyme. A lot of people want to light it up gold because...
Yeah, so, Dolo Solo, you are correct. The fella that started Pokemon, he is autistic. Absolutely.
Because the symbol for gold is AU, you know, like autism. And some people just prefer the rainbow infinity symbol. But either way, blue is not a popular choice among the autistic community. For me, personally, I don't really care. I don't particularly need a special colour to represent me. Another reason why autistic people may not like the campaign is because it's organised and many people fundraise for an American charity called Autism Speaks. This charity is really loathed by a lot of autistic people, and I say loathed and I really do mean that. They like to speak for and about autistic people without any input or consultation from...
They want to speak instead of autistic people. And I've shown, even with this Champions campaign, and actually that's what I'll start looking up here. Every time I've seen anything mentioned about the Champions campaign, it's been Wright or Keith Wargo talking about it, not the champions that they're championing. And those are the 4 autistic people that are supposed to be representing autistic people.
From them. They also advocate ABA therapy, which is short for Applied Behavior Analysis.
And they do.
Which is essentially like dog training for people. Mm-hmm. What they try to do is they try to correct abnormal behavior. So part of the therapy involves correcting the behavior or having the child not doing the behavior and then get a treat at the end for doing the right thing.
It's basic behavioral science being applied to autistic people. The same thing you get in cults, the same thing you get in sales.
I shit you not. That is how ABA works. It is classical conditioning. Well, I don't even know if you can call it classical conditioning, but in my opinion, it's like dog training. And ABA has been known to cause PTSD and various forms of trauma in autistic people. And there are autistic adults out there who are still...
Better than half of all autistic people, I think it's like 60%, or the numbers sometimes I've seen higher, but report having PTSD after ABA. So most autistic people are literally traumatized by ABA.
Suffering from the effects of this ABA therapy that they had as a child. Mm-hmm. Essentially, this therapy is based around getting the autistic person to mask and pass as neurotypical, something that has been shown to be extremely detrimental to autistic people's mental health in the long run. Mm-hmm. Autism Speaks also spend a lot of their money on research, which is...
And it's millions and millions and millions on research. Where is it? I don't have the page up. Really? Oh, that's charity review. There we go. And it's right down in here. Here's millions and millions of dollars right here. Millions and millions of dollars going to research. When all of Autism Speaks started out for genetics and eugenics. And they're still doing it when they're with that research. That's why no one will ever.
It's a nice way of saying that they are looking for a cure for autism. Now, this, in my opinion, is a slippery slope to eugenics. The way that people talk about autistic people, but there is a lot of hate speak. And there are a lot of people that if there was a genetic screener for autism, they would abort the fetus. There are people out there who would try to cure the way I am, and I reject that. Light It Up Blue and Autism Speaks go hand in hand with the puzzle piece logo, and I hate the puzzle piece as well as many autistic people. We don't have missing pieces, we are not a missing piece, we're not a fucking riddle to be solved. We will tell you what we struggle with if you listen. But my biggest issue with this kind of campaign is, how does lighting up national monuments actually help people with autism? Are people actually any wiser to what it looks like in real people rather than stereotypes they see on TV? Or do they know how to help their autistic family members more after the campaign? I really don't think so.
All it has to do is advertising. That's all it has to do is represent Autism Speaks. So people think of Autism Speaks and they go and donate to Autism Speaks. That's what it's about.
It's just a nice way of feeling like you're doing something for charity or for disadvantaged people.
Just like a prayer. Tots and pears, right?
Here's a thought. Why don't we try listening to autistic people for once? Why are we still treating it like a disease or a disorder and not celebrating neurodiversity in all its glory? Now, I cannot claim to speak.
And that was exactly how Suzanne Wright was characterizing it, and literally saying that it was an epidemic, a disease.
For any autistic people other than myself, I am a very heavy masker, and I have been my whole life. And I'm sure I will get comments here saying that I must be so high functioning and I don't look autistic. And it's really different for people with real autism.
Real autism.
So I'm just going to shut you down right there. Autism is something that affects my life every single day. From a sensory perspective, it's like the world's brightness and volume has been turned up to 11. If I'm in a quiet room, I can hear my own circulatory system. I'm pretty much the princess on the pea. And yes, Hans Christian Andersen was on the spectrum. But the amount of sensory input in my environment directly affects how autistic I seem to other people. So if I talk to you one-on-one in a quiet room, you may not even notice it that much. Maybe someone else joins in the conversation and all of a sudden I'm kind of struggling to keep up because there's two people to keep track of. Monologue is now going off. And as a result, I'm thinking so many steps ahead that I'm aggressively lush. But if you would like to start implementing a strategy to be more...
I was hoping she was going to talk about Autism Speaks a little bit more. I don't know this.
Are you a martial arts school owner or manager, tirelessly juggling multiple tools to run your business?
Autism Speaks, which is a charity in America, is a bit controversial because across time they haven't really supported autistic people. They've been more geared towards families and also cure-based things and interventions such as ABA. But definitely their language is a lot based around cure. I remember reading one of their recent documents which suggested that parents grieve their children as if they were dead, which is not the best of phrasings at all. What they really should say is that your experience of your child is going to be different. What you maybe imagined with parenthood is going to be potentially different. It doesn't have to be. But yeah, I mean, I understand that having an autistic child may mean your experience of parenthood are going to be different. I think a lot of those are less to do with the child being autistic and more the struggle of getting any kind of support or understanding by any kind of institution ever, and just how many times you're going to have to call up for a school to give you the basic level of support that they agreed to 2 years earlier, and how many times they'll tell you they'll do something and they won't. And I think that's the big frustration. It's actually advocating for the child and getting basic levels of support. So I think that's going to definitely be a challenge. But I can understand why parents may have difficulty. And I don't know whether grief's the right word, but maybe it is. Maybe there is a level of grief over knowing that their own experiences are going to be different. But in a sense, all parents' experience of parenthood is probably not going to be what is conventionally shown as parenthood. And I don't think that using that language to parents is going to help them, because it's making them maybe catastrophize and worry when really you want to give them emotional support and show them that you understand them, but that language isn't very good. And so Autism Speak often talks about cure and has put lots of funding into cures and not necessarily autistic people themselves. So in the autism community, a lot of people are not for Autism Speaks.
have the appointment, get the evaluation, and receive a formal diagnosis of autism.
Oh boy, that was great. I was there was a video, and I just got called out for silencing someone because I didn't show the entire video on TikTok. I was just showed the part where the mother was being very ableist. Okay, my name is David. Yeah, well, my name is David. Let's see. Now, when we get comments turned off, that's always a red flag. Now, Autism Speaks is doing a lot better about having the comments on. However,
we wanted help.
I don't know what's going on. There's some kind of filter or something that's going on, because on my personal account, I know I commented on this and it is not showing up. It shows up on my account, but it doesn't show up on this account. So I don't know if they have to like approve every single comment or what, but it sure isn't showing up here, and I know it's showing up on mine. So just a really weird thing going on there. All right. Oh, this is
right around the globe about this global public health crisis.
It must feel.
All right, I gotta reorganize here. I gotta start from scratch. Yeah. All right. I wonder if anything came up in the news in the last few hours. Yep, okay. According to Autism Speaks. Okay, I think they're just going to cite Autism Speaks. I don't think there's going to be... Yeah. They're just going to talk about autism, and then they're going to say, according to Autism Speaks, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I've got 5.5 hours down, and I think I need to take a break. So I think that's what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to quit doing this live for now, and I might get back on. I don't have any idea when. Don't forget to check out my TikTok and my regular videos on this channel right here. Thank you very much. This is David Page. Screw them, flapper.